The desert was quiet in a way that made seasoned pilots uneasy. Not silent, not peaceful, just holding its breath. Slate 12 was the kind of grid reference that made every rescue controller pause for half a second longer than usual before speaking. No one survived there, not because of superstition, but because history said so. Aircraft had gone down in that stretch of broken rock and scorched sand, convoys had vanished, and rescue attempts had turned into memorial services. Every map knew it, every pilot knew it, and on that day, a single radio call dragged Slate 12 back into the center of the war. The call came through distorted, cutting in and out, the sound of wind and pain mixed together. A downed special operations team. 2 wounded, 1 critical. Surrounded. Their last exfil bird had taken ground fire and limped away, barely flying. The team leader's voice was calm, too calm, the way voices get when the speaker knows how bad things really are. Coordinates followed. Slate 12. The control room went still. Everyone understood the math. Time, fuel, enemy air defenses, terrain. The odds stacked themselves neatly against the word, rescue. Somewhere on a forward airstrip, an A-10 Thunderbolt II sat with its engines cooling, paint scarred, nose art faded by sun and sand. The pilot had flown her for years. He knew every vibration, every shudder, every sound she made when she was happy and when she was hurt. To some she was old, outdated, slow. To him she was a guardian, a shield, a flying promise that troops on the ground were not alone. When the call came, he didn't ask about survival probabilities. He asked for the coordinates. The A-10 lifted into the sky with a low, angry growl, climbing slowly, heavily, like a beast that knew it didn't need speed to be dangerous. The pilot reviewed the situation in his head. Enemy manpads in the area. Radar-guided threats farther out. The rescue helicopters would need a corridor, a bubble of violence and noise to punch through. The A-10 wasn't meant to be subtle. It was meant to be there. Seen, heard, felt. The kind of presence that made enemies look up and think twice, even if only for a moment. As he approached Slate 12, the landscape changed. The radio chatter grew sharper, more urgent. The downed team was closer now, their voices clearer, the sound of gunfire unmistakable. The pilot could almost picture them without seeing them, dust-covered, weapons up, blood soaking into desert sand that didn't care. He rolled the A-10 into a wide arc, scanning for movement, for heat signatures, for anything that didn't belong. The first pass was brutal. The GAU-8 cannon roared, the sound tearing the air apart, the recoil shuddering through the airframe like a living thing. Enemy positions lit up, scattered, disappeared. The pilot stayed low, dangerously low, because that's where the A-10 did its best work. Every second down there was a gamble, but every second bought time for the men on the ground. He could hear their voices now, excitement cutting through fear as they realized what had arrived overhead. The rescue helicopters were inbound, hugging terrain, fast and exposed. They needed cover, and they needed it immediately. The A-10 swung back around, flares dropping, engines screaming, the aircraft presenting itself like a challenge. Enemy fire answered. Tracers climbed toward him, missiles launched, white smoke curling up from the ground like accusing fingers. The missile warning screamed in his headset. There was no confusion, no delay. He saw it. He knew its path. He knew where the helicopters were behind him, low and vulnerable, blades beating the air, carrying hope and risk in equal measure. He had options, but none of them kept everyone safe. He could try to evade, dump flares, brake hard. The missile might track the helicopters instead. He could climb, but that would open another envelope of threats. He had a fraction of a second to decide who would take the hit. He leveled out. The A-10 flew straight, steady, presenting the largest, hottest target in the sky. The missile corrected its course, hungry, committed. The pilot's hands were calm on the controls. There was fear, of course, only a fool feels none, but it was distant, secondary. What mattered was behind him. What mattered was that Slate 12 would not add more names to its list. Impact was violence beyond description. A flash, a shockwave, the sound of tearing metal. The aircraft bucked, alarms screaming, systems failing one by one. Fire blossomed along one engine, then another warning lit up, then another. The A-10 was built to take punishment, but this was no small wound. The pilot fought the controls, muscles straining, mind narrowing to checklists and instinct. He didn't think about medals or stories or whether anyone would ever know what he had done. He thought about staying airborne long enough. Below him, the helicopters slipped through the corridor he had carved, dust clouds rising as they flared and landed. The rescue crew poured out, guns up, medics moving with practiced urgency. Wounded men were lifted, loaded, secured. The downed team's radio chatter turned into breathless thanks, disbelief, relief that felt almost unreal. They were alive, against Slate 12's reputation, against probability, against everything. The pilot heard it all through the chaos of alarms. He felt a strange, quiet satisfaction even as the A-10 shuddered and bled fuel. He turned away from the zone, coaxing the aircraft toward friendlier airspace. Every mile was a negotiation. The engines coughed, then steadied. Control surfaces responded sluggishly but enough. He talked to the jet like an old friend, encouraging her, promising her rest if she just held together a little longer. When he finally set her down on the runway, it was rough, sparks flying, tires screaming, but it was down. Ground crews ran toward the aircraft, staring at the damage in disbelief. The missile had torn through critical sections, fragments lodged where there should have been nothing but air. More than one technician later said that any other aircraft would have been lost. The A-10 had come home because that was what she was built to do. News of the rescue spread quietly at first, then wider. The men from Slate 12 recovered, scars carried forward as reminders, but alive to tell their families they were coming home. They spoke of the sound overhead, the way the ground seemed to shake, the moment they realized the missile wasn't meant for them. They spoke of a ghost in the sky, a presence that had taken death on itself so others could live. The pilot never corrected them. He never claimed heroism. When asked, he said only that he did his job. That was enough. In the world he came from, that was the highest compliment. Slate 12 was still dangerous, still unforgiving, but it was no longer undefeated. Stories like this don't always make headlines. They live in quiet conversations, in unit reunions, in the way veterans nod to each other without explanation. They live in the knowledge that sometimes survival depends on someone else choosing to stand in front of the fire. The A-10, scarred and repaired, flew again. The pilot flew again, and somewhere, a map still marked Slate 12, but with a different kind of memory attached. If stories of courage, sacrifice, and brotherhood like this matter to you, take a moment to support the channel. Subscribe to Bravo Warrior Stories and stay with us as we share more real, gripping accounts from the edge of combat, where decisions are measured in seconds and lives are changed forever.